Bonjour, it's Jennifer, your French teacher in the south of France, and I've got a great lesson for you today. We are going to be talking about words like quand. You know, quand means when, but we're going to talk about it in ways that you might not have even known existed. Did you know that when you say something like, I'll call you when I arrive, in English we say when I arrive. That's the present tense, but we're making a reference to the future. So in French, you have to use the future tense. I'm going to show you how to use this word quand that way, as well as 6 other conjunctions or conjunctive phrases to help you along in French. Now, like I said, we're going to talk about 7 different words and phrases that are often followed by the future tense in this lesson. And I'm going to give you lots of examples. There are going to be many different tenses being used, but I'll tell you what everything means in English as well. Now, if you're already a supporter of mine on Patreon, you can just go right over to the site and download your lesson guide before you even get started with this lesson so that you can take extra notes. And if you're not a supporter of mine yet on Patreon and you'd like to be, just look down in the description below and you can follow the link and find out more about that. Also, I've put together a mini course which includes this video, downloadable, as well as the lesson guide, online quizzes, and a set of practice cards that will really help you master your new skill. So let's get started right away. Here are the 7 words and phrases that we're going to focus on in this lesson. So remember, they're often followed by the future tense, even though we often use them with the present tense in English. So the first word is quand, which means when. And don't worry, it's not always used with the future tense. You also have lorsque, which means when. Dès que means as soon as, and aussitôt que also means as soon as. So quand and lorsque, you might ask yourself, well, what's the difference? There's no difference. They're synonyms. You can use them interchangeably. The only difference is that you cannot use lorsque when you are asking a question. So quand is your question word. Keep that in mind. And then what's the difference between dès que and aussitôt que? There's no difference. They both mean as soon as. But I'll tell you that dès que is used more frequently in regular spoken everyday French, just like quand is used more frequently. But if you want to up your game a little bit, then you can start using lorsque and aussitôt que. And let me show you these last 3 rather. Pendant que means while, une fois que means once, and tant que means as long as. All right, so pendant que, you've probably been using the word pendant to mean lots of different things. During is what it means. It can also be used to express time. But this time, today, we're going to use it followed up with the word que and then another subject, and I'll show you how that works. All right, let's get on then with it. We're going to start out by, and I like to show you the French and English, okay? So we're going to start out comparing the French and English with quand and lorsque, and remember they both mean when. So we'll start out with the present tense. Je me concentre bien quand je travaille. Je me concentre bien quand je travaille. So I really concentrate when I'm working. See, we're not making a reference to the future there. We're just speaking in general terms. You can say the same thing with lorsque, and it doesn't change the meaning. Je me concentre bien lorsque je travaille. Je me concentre bien lorsque je travaille. But now let's make reference to the future and see what happens. Quand nous serons en Espagne, nous verrons nos amis. Quand nous serons en Espagne, nous verrons nos amis. So now we're using the future tense, and this is the futur simple. And how it translates, in English we say when we are in Spain, We will see our friends. So we will see our friends, we naturally put that in the future, but it's the first part that we in English put in the present tense. But if you want a real literal translation, it means when we will be in Spain, we will see our friends. And this is very important in French, okay? You can also use lorsque. Lorsque nous serons en Espagne, nous verrons nos amis. Voilà, okay? So that's always making reference to the future. Now, if you don't know the future tense yet, this is called le futur simple. I have a lesson on that. You can look it up in YouTube, Love Learning Languages Futur Simple, and you can learn all about it. Something about the futur simple, it is very simple to form, but it has a lot of irregular stems. And on that lesson guide I talked to you about, I have put you a list of those irregular stems to help you through while you're going through the mini course and the practice cards, okay? All right, so let's get on to the next example. Now we're going to compare dès que and aussitôt que. Remember, I told you they mean the same thing. You're just kind of upping your game. You're upping your vocabulary game a little bit when you use aussitôt que. They both mean as soon as. So in real general terms, I'm going to use the present tense. Je me lève dès que j'entends les oiseaux chanter. Je me lève dès que j'entends les oiseaux chanter. So that means I get up as soon as I hear the birds chirping. Right? Present tense, present tense. We can also say, je me lève aussitôt que j'entends les oiseaux chanter. You see, same way, you have two ways of saying the same exact thing. Now, we're going to move into the future. On partira, this is the futur simple again. On partira tous dès que tu seras prêt pour partir. Or, on partira tous dès que tu seras prête pour partir. Depends on who you're speaking to, if they're masculine or feminine. We can equally say, je pourrais faire à manger aussitôt que tu reviendras. Je pourrais faire à manger aussitôt que tu reviendras. So I will be able to cook. That's what faire à manger means. It's another way to say to cook. I will be able to cook as soon as you come back, or more literally, as soon as you will come back. D'accord? All right, let's move on to another example. Now we're going to use pendant que, comparing in French and English. Remember, pendant que means while. So anytime you want to say while, the que is extremely important. You can't just say pendant and follow it up with a subject. The que has to be there, and that changes the meaning of pendant from during to while. So, here we go. Here's our first example, present tense. Tu veux souffler les bougies pendant que je prends des photos? Tu veux souffler les bougies pendant que je prends des photos? So you see, do you want to blow out the candles while I take pictures? We're in the present tense, not in the future. We're not making reference to the future. J'aime bien faire la sieste pendant que tu conduis. That's me. I always fall asleep. I never drive. I always sit in the passenger seat and I sleep. J'aime bien faire la sieste pendant que tu conduis. So again, look at that. Pendant que followed by a subject. So I really like to take a nap while you drive. Now we're going to make reference to the future using pendant que. Again, with the futur simple. Pendant que nous serons en ville, tu finiras tes devoirs? Pendant que nous serons en ville, tu finiras tes devoirs? So while we are, or more literally, while we will be in town, you will finish your homework. So you see how the second part of this, it's really natural for us to use the future tense in English. You just have to train your brain and you have to think about, okay, am I making reference to the future or am I not? And it's really pretty logical when you think about it. Our next example, tu iras voir ton copain au café pendant que je serai au cinéma? Tu iras voir ton copain au café pendant que je serai au cinéma? So you will go see your friend at the cafe while I am at the cinema. So Again, very literally, you will go see your friend at the cafe while I will be at the cinema. You see how this works? Now, I'm going to keep on giving you some examples, but don't you worry. If you take that mini course, you're going to get a lot of examples where you're not making reference to the future, okay? But this particular lesson, the video part, is about speaking in the future, or making reference to it rather. Okay, now we're going to use une fois que. Une fois, all by itself, means one time. But when you say une fois que, it means once. Now look at the example and you'll know what I mean. Je comprends la grammaire une fois que je connais les règles. Je comprends la grammaire une fois que je connais les règles. I understand grammar once I know the rules. Does that sound familiar? Really, that's all you have to do. You have to look at the rules and practice them. Our next example. Je me sens mieux une fois que je prends mon premier café. That's me, you guys, in the morning. I wake up, that's the first thing I have to do. Et je me sens mieux une fois que je prends mon premier café. So what that means, it doesn't mean I feel better once I've had my first coffee. I'm speaking in very general terms. Look what it means. I feel better once I have my first cup of coffee. You see the difference? Mon premier café. You can say ma première tasse de café if you want, but people generally just say mon premier café. Alors, now let's make reference to the future. Futur simple. Je comprendrai la grammaire une fois que je connaîtrai les règles. Je comprendrai la grammaire une fois que je connaîtrai les règles. I will understand grammar once I understand the rules, once I will understand the rules, once I have understood the rules. However you want to translate that is fine. Je me sentirai mieux une fois que je prendrai mon premier café. Je me sentirai mieux une fois que je prendrai mon premier café. I will feel better once I will have, or once I have my first cup of coffee. Give it to me and I will feel better. Okay? Voilà. Continuons donc. Now, have you ever seen this one? Tant que. Tant que means as long as. And sometimes this can vary in meaning, but for this lesson, we're going to stick with one meaning of tant que, as long as. So in very general terms, tant que tu es là, va me chercher un verre d'eau. Tant que tu es là, va me chercher un verre d'eau. So as long as you're here, go get me a glass of water. Now there are two things I want to look at with you there. Tant que tu es là. Tant que tu es là. So you might be thinking, well, là means there. It doesn't mean here. But in French, we very often say là to mean here. And I have to tell you real quick, I always have a little story, but this just popped in my mind. I was in St. Louis one time where we used to live, and we went in this real famous little restaurant called Blueberry Hill, if you've ever been there. And I went into the ladies' room, and I closed the door, and it's the kind of place where people write all over the walls, you know, and it's kind of, it's people just do it, and it's not a big deal. And this girl had written in English, and I know she was French because her name was Delphine. She wrote, Delphine was there. And I just thought that was so cute because Delphine, this French girl, wanted to say, as we often say, oh, Jennifer was here. And she said Delphine was there. That's because in French we say là instead of ici very often. Okay, the other thing I wanted to tell you, let me show you this again. It said, tant que tu es là, va me chercher un verre d'eau. Now look at va, and it's spelled V-A. Now can you tell me, do you remember why there is no S on va? It's because this is the imperative. This is a command form. And aller is one of those verbs where you drop the S off of the to form of the verb when you're giving a command. You also do that with regular ER verbs. That's just a little extra. Okay? Look at the next example. Tant que tu as de l'argent, achète-toi un nouveau téléphone. Tant que tu as de l'argent, Achète-toi un nouveau téléphone. So as long as you have money, buy yourself a new phone. Now I put in parentheses some because you can't forget de l'apostrophe, because you don't just have money, you have some of it. Achète-toi un nouveau téléphone. Look at that. Acheter, regular ER verb. We're giving a command in the to form, so we drop the S. Now let's use the tant que, making reference to the future. Tant que tu ne travailleras pas, tu n'auras pas de salaire. Tant que tu ne travailleras pas, tu n'auras pas de salaire. Let me show you me saying that. Tant que tu ne travailleras pas, tu n'auras pas de salaire. You see how that de before salaire kind of gets swallowed? Tu n'auras pas de salaire. Tu n'auras pas de salaire. Okay, but that's how French people talk, and sometimes, yeah, it all runs together. It just does. Okay, let's look at the next. Well, that means as long as you don't work, you will not have a salary. Okay, or as long as you will not work, you won't have a salary. Tant que tu ne mettras pas de crème solaire, tu prendras des coups de soleil. Tant que tu ne mettras pas de crème solaire, tu prendras des coups de soleil. So as long as you don't wear sunscreen, or you will not wear sunscreen, you will get sunburned. Okay, guys, so now moving on to one more example. And, I'm going to talk a little bit about using other tenses, which correspond more closely to English. And I wanted to go through a few of these with you, just so that you're not confused and you think, oh my goodness, I've been using all 7 of these or 2 or 3 of them, and I haven't been using the future tense. That's because you're not always making reference to the future. Okay? So the times when it really doesn't correspond to English is when we do use the future, right? Because in English we use the present tense. So let's just look at some of these so that you can see how they work. Okay, so the first example on the left in French, je promenais le chien quand tu es arrivé. Now there's no future there because clearly we're speaking in the past. Je promenais le chien quand tu es arrivé. So imperfect tense, I was walking the dog when you arrived. So that's the passé composé. Here's what I was doing when something else happened. And we're following a little doggy theme on this one. So if you're a dog lover, bravo, excellent. Next example. Elle écoutait de la musique lorsque le chien a aboyé. Elle écoutait de la musique lorsque le chien a aboyé. She was listening. Again, this is the imperfect tense we're describing. She was listening to music when the dog did something. If he did something and it had a beginning and an ending, that's the passé composé. So when the dog barked, and that's the verb aboyer, in case you didn't know. Okay, le chien a renversé son bol d'eau dès que je lui ai donné à manger. Le chien a renversé son bol d'eau dès que je lui ai donné à manger. So that verb renverser is in the passé composé because this is an action that the dog did. What did he do? He knocked over his bowl of water. That's where the de is. Dès que je lui ai donné à manger. So I gave him food to eat. That's donner à manger, to give food to eat. A few things to look at here. Lui. What is lui doing there? Je lui ai donné. Anytime you give somebody something and you want to say, I gave him something or I gave her something, that is an indirect object pronoun. So we know we have to use lui instead of le or la. Now I know this is a little bit advanced. If you haven't studied pronouns, don't worry about it, but I know that that's sometimes a confusing point for people. So when you give something to someone, whether it's giving something to him or to her, you're going to use lui, and look where it's placed in the sentence, je lui ai donné. We're in the passé composé here, so your pronoun, lui, goes in front of the helping verb, which in this case is avoir. Another thing I want to look at with you on this one is when I talk about his bowl of water. Okay? Son bol d'eau, D apostrophe. And I know that some of you have watched my video on the different ways to use de, but if you're wondering why it's not son bol de l'eau, it's because son bol is a quantity. All right, so when you have a quantity, you just use de, de, or d apostrophe after that. And I always just like to remind people about little things, even though that's not what this lesson is about. Okay, so the next one. Le chien a couru. So that's passé composé of the verb courir, which means to run. Le chien a couru aussitôt qu'il a entendu la voix de son maître. Le chien a couru aussitôt qu'il a entendu la voix de son maître. We have two passés composés going on here. Again, guys, we're making no reference to the future with these words in this case. All right? So the dog ran as soon as he heard. Il a entendu his master's voice. La voix de son maître. The voice of his master. Next one, we're going to start out with pendant que. Pendant que son maître discutait, imperfect tense, le chien s'est échappé. Pendant que son maître discutait, le chien s'est échappé. So while, remember pendant que, if you want to say while, how about that? While his master was talking, the dog got away. So this is a reflexive verb being used in the passé composé. It literally means to escape. I would probably say the dog got away. Okay? Next example. Une fois que j'aurai fini de préparer à manger, there again we have that à manger. You see that? Donner à manger means to give food to eat. Préparer à manger means to prepare something to eat. So, une fois que j'aurai fini de préparer à manger, je donnerai à manger au chien. So, once I have finished preparing the meal, now if you look at that and say, oh goodness, Jennifer, what kind of tense is that? Don't freak out. It's called in French le futur antérieur. And in English, that's just called the future perfect tense. Okay, and it means that at some point in the future, this will have happened, right? So I will have finished preparing the meal. And if you say, well, I don't know how to do that. Yes, you do. Look at it. Une fois que j'aurai fini. If you know, and this is important because it's part of the mini course, all right? If you know how to put the verb avoir in the future, j'aurai, for example, and you know the passé composé, like regular passé composé, you would say j'ai fini, right? I finished. If you want to say I will have finished, you just put that helping verb in the future. Et voilà. And now you know a new tense. If you're just learning the passé composé, pay close attention to all of those rules because they come up so often. So when we talk about using the future, here we go. We are using the future here, but it's just a little bit different because we're using the futur antérieur. So once I have finished preparing the meal, I will feed the dog. And there again, we have je donnerai à manger au chien. Now, who am I giving food to? To the dog. So remember what I said about donner a little while ago. Anytime I give something to somebody or to an animal, then I use lui because that dog is an indirect object. I know that because it has a in front of it. Je donne à le chien. But we can't say à le, we have to say au, because à le forms a contraction, right? So, je donnerai à manger au chien, and you could have said, je lui donnerai à manger, that's it. Because now you've replaced chien with lui, all right? Last example, and then guess what? This lesson will be over. Tant que tu n'auras pas lavé le chien, il sentira mauvais. Now look at what's happening here. Tant que, as long as, tu n'auras pas lavé. This looks very much like the passé composé. It's just like the previous example. We're using the futur antérieur. So all I've done is I've taken that helping verb, which is avoir, and I've put it into the futur simple. And now it says, as long as you have not washed the dog, he will smell bad. Okay? Il sentira. That's the regular futur simple. Il sentira mauvais. So when someone or something smells bad, if you saw my lesson about things smelling bad and using bon, bien, mieux, and meilleur, here's a perfect example. Il sentira mauvais. Because il sentira bon means he will smell good. Bad is mauvais. Donc il sentira mauvais. Voilà, so that's the end of this lesson, guys. If you feel like you need a little more practice with this, of course you can go through and watch the lesson again. I encourage you to go and download that lesson guide. And here's what it looks like, by the way. It's a 2-pager this time, not too long, but I have all the rules on there, including some helpful hints on forming the futur simple there on the first page. I give you reminders as to what all of these words mean, as well as examples and helpful hints. So if you want to just download it, head over to Patreon, and you can download it for free. You can also sign up for my mini course called Conjunctions followed by the future tense. That link is down below. Now, just another word about Patreon. Depending on the level at which you support me, you can also receive those cards for free. Okay, so you can go on and download those as well and get to practicing. Let me know if you have any questions at all. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel so that you won't miss out on any of my weekly lessons. Je vous remercie et à la prochaine. Ciao.